President Obama went into this weekend's G20 urging his European counterparts to keep up the spending. The meeting ended with an agreement, except it was all about deficit cutting. For some post-game analysis of the G20, we welcome a veteran of such multilateral gatherings, Tim Adams, a former U.S. Treasury undersecretary for international affairs. Tim is currently a managing director at the Lindsey Group, an investment consulting firm. He's with us from our Washington bureau. Tim, both sides say they got out of this meeting what they wanted, but how's that really possible?
Well, good morning, Eric. Well, it's obviously the top-line narrative has changed from one of stimulus-driven crisis environment to one of post-Keynesianism budget consolidation. So that's a big win for the fiscal hawks, especially the Europeans. But with a document of the length of this communique, everyone was able to walk away and said, look, point to a particular piece and said, we got what we wanted. It's sprinkled with enough words of challenges ahead and fragility that the U.S. can say that they were able to sensitize their partners to the problems that still exist in the global economy.
Okay, it's all about, on the one hand, what they say versus ultimately what they do. Tim, given the fact that there's no mechanism here to force anybody to do anything, what should we genuinely expect out of these actors?
Yeah, well, not much. It is aspirational. There are a couple of targets that were noted in the document without question. Those were targets, however, that were based on previous release baseline. So it's not as if they came in and over the weekend they cobbled together something new and bold and exciting, despite the fact the IMF came with some documentation that would allow them to be more bold and more aggressive. So they simply restated what they're already going to do. The goals are aspirational at best. And the debt to GDP stabilization estimate really doesn't occur for 6 years. So probably underwhelming, but it's a step in the right direction. And the right direction is having country-specific roadmaps that they can be held accountable to by their peers around the table.
Tim, does it feel to you like the U.S. continually, or at least more and more, is going into these kinds of meetings holding a weaker hand?
Well, it's a lot different from the G7 days when we were able to help dominate the conversation. It was a smaller group. Obviously, the trends that we've been talking about for years, where the real thrust of economic growth has shifted to the emerging markets, weakens our hand a bit. But at the end of the day, the president still is the leader of the largest, most vibrant economy in the world, and we still have a pretty important voice. But that voice is diluted a bit by the number of people around the table.
Tim, let's turn our attention back to what we heard at the beginning of last week, the Chinese shifting their policy on the UN. The president saying over the weekend he expects the UN to appreciate, quote unquote, significantly. In the context of what you just said, are those kind of empty words?
Well, that's, again, aspirational. We've been talking about Chinese exchange rate for half a decade now, and with high hopes that China and Asia more broadly will appreciate and will be part of this rotating of demand away from the industrialized countries to the emerging markets, Asia especially. I think they hope that that's what happens, but I suspect that Chinese officials will be more evolutionary than revolutionary, and will probably continue to be a little disappointed by their progress. That said, it was an important breakthrough, and we should recognize that and applaud the Chinese for returning.
Tim, I'm afraid we've run out of time. That's Tim Adams of the Lindsey Group.